Sychar, near to the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. You find that in the Old Testament. It says, now Jacob's well was there. Now therefore, Jesus therefore being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour, so it's about midday. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus said unto her, give me to drink. Not only is it that Jesus initiated the interaction, but also note Jesus is concerned about the individual. He is the one that made it his business to speak to this woman. It's not, yes, you read the passage and you understand about the entire city. Yes, they saw who Jesus was and was not. We get that. But the fact at the end of the day, Jesus was concerned about the individual. He did not say, this is just one person that is coming here and therefore I have better things to do than deal with one person. Jesus Christ was concerned about the individual. It says in verse 8, for his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then said the woman of Samaria unto him, how is it that thou being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? Why? Because for the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. You look historically, when you hear about Samaria, that's talking about the northern kingdom. You know, when you had the split of the kingdom in the time of Solomon there. And what had happened is that their capital city was Samaria. And eventually the entire area was called Samaria. And they were called Samaritans. What happened when the Assyrians came and they took over that area? They did something different. In that they took some of the people, but they left the less than desirable part of the Jewish population there at the time. And what they did is that they sent their own Assyrians and other people groups that they had conquered into the area to intermarry with those that were left of the children of Israel. So what you ended up with is that you have a group of people here in the north that are half Jewish by blood. And the Jews who are the pure Jews, you know, Judah and that half tribe of Benjamin, they despise these people because they saw them as half-breeds. They would call them half-breeds. So when this woman says that the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans, she was not making something up. That is the reality. You see that verse that says, and he must needs go through Samaria? That is strange because if you understand the context, the Jews generally, what they would do is that they would walk an excessively long journey just not to have to pass through this area called Samaria. Because to them, they were too good to walk through this area. He said, Jesus answered and said unto her, if thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that said to thee, give me to drink, thou wouldest have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. Not only did he initiate the interaction, not only is he concerned about the individual, but Jesus identified her need. Now, she didn't understand, but Jesus was identifying her need. The woman said unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou that living water? Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? Jesus answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. Now, Jesus identified what her need is. She thought that her need was just for physical water. That's why she went to the well. But Jesus said, no, there is this living water that I can give you. That is really what you need. Yet she did not understand. Verse 15, the woman said unto him, Sir, give me this water that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. Again, she thought he was just talking about natural water, physical water. Jesus said unto her, Go call thy husband and come hither. Now that sounds strange. I mean, is it that she wasn't able to dip up the water herself from the well? Why is it Jesus telling her to go call her husband? The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus said unto her, Thou hast well said, I have no husband. For thou hast had 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thy husband. In that saidst thou truly. Jesus also exposed her sin. Now, we do not know why it is that she has had 5 husbands. We don't know that part. It could very well be that she's just been one of those people that she gets married and the husbands die. We do not know. Okay? I wasn't there. Okay? But it says she had 5 husbands. But it says, But he whom thou now hast is not thy husband. So whatever position you want to take on the fact that she had 5 husbands before, what we know for sure is that she's shacking up with somebody and she's not even worrying about making this person a husband. Or he's not worried about making her a wife. I don't know which one it is. I mean, if it is that, the 5 husbands before have died, he ain't going to take that chance. That's playing with danger. But the fact at the end of the day, Jesus is exposing her sin. And understand something. When Jesus interacts with people, he exposes sin. He told her, you know what? Who you are living with is not your husband. Because that's a problem. It was a problem in the Old Testament. It was a problem in the New Testament. It's a problem in Saint Vincent. Because people have this idea that, marriage is just some government contract or what. No. God has said, okay, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave unto his wife. God designed marriage. God designed marriage to be permanent. And anytime we go outside of God's express will, we have problems. Now, I know in Saint Vincent, we have this thing, people love to say, oh, that's my wifey. That means nothing. Okay? If you have not taken what God has said in that there should be a covenant relationship between one man and one woman, that covenant being marriage, then you're living in fornication. That's what the Bible teaches. Whether we like it or not, that's what the Bible teaches. So at this point, the reasonable response is that of confession. Jesus has revealed what the sin is. But this woman had other things on her mind. You see, she had an attitude or belief that she held to that is still held to by many. Instead of dealing with my sin, maybe if I worship more, God will overlook my sin. You see, God deserves our worship and God desires our worship. But it is not always time to worship. There are times that God says, it is not time to worship. And our worship, yes, I know sometimes we think of worship, it can be a private matter. But for most of what we'll be looking at, it's in the public sphere of worship. You see, this Samaritan woman, she was more interested in the mechanics of worship. The where and how it looks, rather than her heart. And that is still a problem that many people face today. That's why you come later on and Jesus says, you have to worship God in spirit and in truth. But this account with this woman here is not something that is unique as it comes to this idea of worship and misunderstanding of what worship is. So what I would like to do is to look at 3 times when it is not time to worship. The very first one, we're going to turn back to Numbers chapter. But we look at Leviticus chapter 10. We won't look at Numbers chapter 16. That's another one. Leviticus chapter 10. Look at the first few verses there. Leviticus chapter 10. From verse 1 it says, And Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, took either of them his censer and put fire therein, and put incense thereon, and offered strange fire before the Lord, which he commanded them not. And there went out fire from the Lord and devoured them, and they died before the Lord. Now, there are many thoughts as to what this strange fire was. I cannot tell you categorically what it is. But they offered strange fire, which the Lord did not command them to offer. If you read previous to this, you would find out that the person that was supposed to burn incense was Aaron, the high priest, not his son. They were intruding in an office that they did not have the authority to be in. Here they were trying to worship God by doing something that God did not command them to do. And God took that seriously. Also, you think about Korah, that's what that account is, what you have in Numbers chapter 16. God had said that Moses is the one that is the leader of the children of Israel. And Korah said, you know what, basically, no. I can do a better job. And God does not take that lightly. You see, when God has put somebody into a specific role, He will move them in His own time. But there are too many people that go around, and the only reason that they want to remove people is because they want to be in the position. They want to do things that they are not authorized to do, things that God has not commanded them to do. Which is why I tell people, look, I understand. I understand fully. You look at Grace Community Baptist Church, I don't have to go and count by numbers. We have more women here than men. And guess what? That's the norm in most churches. You know why? Because the population is also split, more women than men. Okay? So you'll expect to find that in the church. And then, of course, most men don't want to come to church either. That just makes the statistics a bit worse. But what am I trying to get at? God has said that the office of a pastor is reserved to qualified men. Okay? Now, there are many people that will tell you, oh, but you know, there were no men around. And therefore, this woman, she stepped in to the office. God is not worshipped when we are doing things that He has not commanded us to do. When we are acting outside of the structure that He has said should be in place. Our problem, just like Nadab and Abihu, is that we want to do things our own way. You remember with Cain and Abel? Cain decided, you know what? Basically, I am going to give God what I feel like giving God. God did not command me to do this thing, but I will do what I feel like doing. And God is supposed to accept that. No, He does not. When we are acting apart from where God has commanded, God does not accept that. It is not time to worship if we are trying to override God's established boundaries. That's not time to worship. I want you to look at 1 Samuel chapter 15. Here's another account that we find in the Old Testament. 1 Samuel chapter 15. It says, Samuel also said unto Saul, Saul is the king at the time, the Lord sent me to anoint thee to be king over the people, over Israel. Now therefore hearken thou unto the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus said the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how that he laid wait for him in the way when he came up out from Egypt. Okay, so that's back to the time of the Exodus. Now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not. But slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. You realize verse 3 could have stopped at, now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have. And the meaning would still be the same. But just in the event that Saul would not understand, God was very clear in what He wanted him to do. It says, and Saul gathered the people together and numbered them in Telaim 200,000 footmen and 10,000 men of Judah. And Saul came to a city of Amalek and laid wait in the valley. And Saul said unto the Kenites, go, depart, get you down from among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them. For ye showed kindness to all the children of Israel when they came up out of Egypt. So the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites. And Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah until thou comest to Shur, that is over against Egypt. Sounds good. Verse 8. And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, dead. Wait, no, it says alive, sorry. And utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. So, okay, you leave one person. Okay. That's fine. But Saul and the people spared Agag, and the best of the sheep, and of the oxen, and of the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them. But everything that was vile and refuse, that they destroyed utterly. Then came the word of the Lord unto Samuel, saying, it repented me that I have set up Saul to be king, for he is turned back from following me, and had not performed my commandments. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried unto the Lord all night. And when Samuel rose early to meet Saul in the morning, it was told Samuel, saying, Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set him up a place, and is gone about, and passed on, and gone down to Gilgal. And Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said to him, Blessed be thou of the Lord. I have performed the commandment of the Lord. That's a lie. And Samuel said, What meaneth then this bleating of the sheep in mine ears, and the lowing of the oxen that I hear? And Saul said, They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God, and the rest have we utterly destroyed. Then Samuel said to Saul, Stay, I will tell thee what the Lord hath said to me this night. And he said to him, Say on. And Samuel says, When thou wast little in thine own sight, wast thou not made the head of the tribes of Israel, and the Lord anointed thee king over Israel? And the Lord sent thee on a journey and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. Wherefore then didst thou not obey the voice of the Lord, but didst fly upon the spoil, and didst evil in the sight of the Lord? And Saul said unto Samuel, Yea, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Agag the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. Then he tries to put the blame away from himself. He says, But the people took up the spoil, sheep and oxen, the chief of the things which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God in Gilgal. And Samuel said, Hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the voice of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee from being king. And Saul said unto Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and thy words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Then look at verse 25. Now therefore I pray thee, pardon my sin, and turn again with me, that I may worship the Lord. If you read the rest of the chapter, you understand Saul did not confess his sin. It's not that Saul realized that, you know what, I have sinned and I need to get things right with God. It was a simple situation. Saul realized that as king, people look up to him. He has a certain standard in society, a certain standing. People look up to this guy. And if it is that Samuel is not going to go with him to worship God, people are going to ask questions. Not only is it not time to worship when we are doing things that God has not commanded us to do, it's also not time to worship when we are not doing the things that God has commanded us to do. God was clear. Destroy the Amalekites. It does not matter whether Saul understood why it is that God wanted the Amalekites destroyed. You see, too often we have this idea that somehow God owes us an explanation. But he does not. God speaks, we obey. That's how this thing works. God does not owe any of us an explanation. If God says, this is what I expect you to do, you do it. No questions asked. Just do what God says needed to be done. I mean, think about it. Saul knew the implications of incomplete obedience. Remember a guy by the name of Achan? Achan decided, you know what, I'm going to take certain things, even though God said, destroy everything. And here Saul is coming, doing the same thing. God did not say to take Agag alive. God did not say, you know what, those oxen over there that look really nice, you keep them to sacrifice to me. No, God said, destroy everything. And destroy everything means destroy everything. Everything means everything. But yet you have this guy who is blatantly and willfully disobeying what God has commanded. And yet, Saul, Samuel, come, I need you to go and worship with me. because I still need the people around to see me in the standing that they see me. No, no, no. When we are doing things where God has spoken and we are in willful disobedience, it is not time for worship. That's not the time when we go and worship. There are things that have to happen before that. One last passage. Proverbs chapter 7. He says, "My son, keep my words and lay up my commandments with thee. Keep my commandments and live, and my law as the apple of thine eye. Bind them upon thy fingers, write them upon the table of thine heart. Say unto wisdom, thou art my sister, and call understanding thy kinswoman, that they may keep thee from the strange woman, from the stranger that flattereth with her words. For at the window of my house I looked through my casement, and beheld among the simple ones," somebody who doesn't know any better, "I discerned among the youth a young man void of understanding, passing through the street near her corner, and he went the way to her house in the twilight, in the evening, in the black and dark night. And behold, there met him a woman, with the attire of an harlot, and subtle of heart. She is loud and stubborn. Her feet abide not in her house. Now she is without in the streets, and lieth in wait at every corner. She caught him and kissed him, and with an impudent face said unto him," and verse 14 sounds quite out of place when you read this account, "I have peace offerings with me. This day have I paid my vows." Let me explain to you. In those days, when you had a peace offering, what would happen? Some of it would stay at the altar at the temple, be burnt and what's not. But the rest of it you would take home, and you had to consume it that very day. Now, you read through the rest of that account. Go on to verse 15. "Therefore came I to meet thee diligently to seek thy face," that's a lie, "and I found thee. I have decked my bed with coverings of tapestry, with carved works, with fine linen of Egypt. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon." If you didn't understand what you were saying, "Come, let us take our fill of love until the morning. Let us solace ourselves with love. For the good man is not at home. He is gone on a long journey. He has taken a bag of money with him, and he will come home at the day appointed." Wait. So, it's not that her peace offering, more was left over than she anticipated. So she needed somebody to help eat the peace offering. That's not what she's out in the road about. Here you have somebody that is religious. And here is somebody that their thing is, you know what? My worship for God. It's like you have those scales. You remember those old time scales that you used to have? Where you have a pan on one side, you go to the village market and you want 2 pounds or whatever. And they put it over there on that side, then they will take a weight and put it on this side. And try to get it to balance. And some of us have the same idea when it comes to how we relate to God. I know I want to sin. But if I just worship God a bit more, then the scale is going to be balanced. It doesn't work that way. That was never God's intent. Actually, that behavior puts more weight on the wrong side of the scale for you. Here you have somebody that thinks it's time. She's going to worship so that she could now have the chance to sin. You know, you have many people that they've already decided that they want to go and sin. So their solution to the problem is simple. I'll just maybe give a little more. You know? I want to live in sin Monday to Saturday, but you know what? As long as I come to church on Sunday morning, God is going to be okay with that. That's going to put enough weight on the good side of the scale. So what I do Monday to Saturday, the Sunday morning will balance it. And then we say, no, that's not enough. I'll give a little bit more money to the church. Because you know what? If I give God a little bit more money, then God is going to overlook my sin. Because, you know, God is like an accountant. He's just looking that the balance on the church account should be looking good. No. The thing is, look, it is good to come to church. It's good to give towards the work of God. But that does not excuse us for living in sin. And there are many people that think that is how Christianity works. I know of people, you know, you could hardly see them in the house of God. But they feel, you know what? The moment that I step in, as long as what I put in the offering plate is a bit heavier, I balance the scales. No. That's not how it works. If our view is that worship is somehow giving us a pass to sin, it is not time to worship. It's time to get things right with God. You see, God desires genuine worship. Worship that is based on truth and coming from our innermost being. You see, when we worship God in spirit and in truth, what happens? We see God for who He is. And we see ourselves for who we are. And it causes us to want to be more like who God wants us to be. You see, that's how we know if it's time for worship. It has to do with the heart. It's not about how pretty we look when we come on a Sunday morning. It's not about whether, you know, when we were at school, you like that at the end of the term, because sometimes they might have given out an award for perfect attendance or whatever. That's not what it's about. Because you know what? You have it at school, you have it in your workplace, you have it at church. People that come for all the wrong reasons. We start off talking about that Samaritan woman. Jesus confronted her with her sin. And she wants to talk about, well, where is it that we should worship? No. It's not time to worship. Jesus wanted her to deal with her sin problem. It's not about singing a song. It's not about doing a reading. It's not about playing an instrument. It's not about putting more money in the offering plate. It's about us having hearts that are right with God. When our hearts are right, that is when it's time to worship. Because at the heart of worship is Jesus Christ. If Jesus Christ is not central to what we are doing, if He's not central to our lives, then our worship is actually an insult to Him. And we must be oh so careful. Because just like these 4 individuals that we just had a little snippet at them. The same thing that happens to us. We're trying to worship, but it is not time to worship.